Fox River, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Erica, and today I'm with Jamie Krzykowski, Dr. K. We're doing a follow-up conversation from service this last week where we talked about just physical health and the implications that it has on our overall health, our spiritual health, stuff like that. And we have additional questions that you submitted that we wanted to take an opportunity to answer. So, Jamie, tell me a little bit about yourself. I know you're a mother, a mother of 3 daughters, but you have like a laundry list of educational background for the basis of your knowledge. Why don't you fill us in real quick?
All right, well, thank you. I'm so glad to be here with everyone and to answer more of the questions that we weren't able to get to this last weekend. So my background is athletic training. So if you ever watch professional sports, you see someone run out on the field with a fanny pack and they're going to help someone who's injured. That's an athletic trainer. I'm also a sports nutritionist as well as a therapeutic nutrition counselor, and so really combining the two in athletic training. I was also an EMT for a while, so I have had a lot of experiences within a variety of healthcare fields.
So you're a wealth of knowledge. We're going to jump in. We have a bunch of questions, but I'm going to start with kind of an easy one because you already addressed it on social media since Sunday. There's a question about a certain special tea that's supposed to help curb your sugar cravings.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that quick.
So this tea, it's herbal based, and it's called Genema Sylvester. Do not try to say it 10 times. It will not work. Genema Sylvester. Now you can go to one of my pages, and I did post something about it actually yesterday, but it can really help to curb our carb cravings. And just fair warning, it doesn't taste great, but it really does work. Drink the tea, especially at times when you know, let's say in the evening, where you really feel like that's the time when you want sweets, then that's when
you're sitting down to watch TV at night and you're
right.
like craving the ice cream to go with.
Right, something like that, and you just know this is the time that I crave carbs, then especially sweets and desserts, then you want to drink the tea before that, and it will really help to curb that craving. It can last longer than that as well, but it's best if you do it closer to the time that you might be really having that sweet tooth.
Genema Sylvester.
Genema Sylvester.
So I mentioned earlier that you posted it on social media, but what is that page, if you could let us know? What is your page?
It is at Dr. K's _wellness. I believe it should be in the chat so that you can get to that directly. I do have a Facebook group that's a public group as well as an Instagram page.
Perfect. So we are going to jump into some of the questions that you sent in. I think this one is a really great, easy question that a lot of people might want to know about. Talk to us about diet soda. Is it really that bad for you?
So diet soda, anything that is laden with artificial sweeteners is just not going to be good for us. Artificial sweeteners have a variety of impacts in our body, and diet soda can trick our brains into thinking that we're getting sugar. And so the brain will signal, oh, you're getting something sweet, therefore the pancreas is going to secrete insulin, and then you drink the diet soda or whatever has the artificial sweetener in it, and then the pancreas secreted insulin, and guess what? There's no sugar there. But what's going to happen? Your blood sugar is going to drop because the insulin was sent out to handle the sugar that we were supposedly taking in. But then when we don't take it in, we're getting artificial sweetener, then the insulin will still work for whatever blood sugar we do have, and then our blood sugar drops, and guess what? When our blood sugar drops, we get hungry. And so then we eat. So the diet sodas really, or diet things in general, are counterintuitive. Now, if you're a diabetic, I understand sometimes they'll promote more of the artificial sweeteners because it has less sugar in it, which can have its benefits. My recommendation would be, if you really need to have the soda, only drink a little bit of it, or choose something different. And other things that have artificial sweeteners in it, have something that's sweetened with whole fruit, or buy something yourself. I love getting a Greek yogurt, let's say, and then putting in berries or something like that, and maybe a little bit of raw honey. Then that way I'm sweetening it myself and I know what's in it.
So how you kind of explained what happens with your pancreas with diet soda really then answers the question, well then it's not better for me to drink regular soda.
No.
Because I've thought that. She was like, well, if it's aspartame and diet I don't want to have, I'll drink the regular stuff for the caffeine.
Right.
Same problem.
Same problem.
Same problem.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
I know.
That helps.
I'm sorry.
I don't
Some
drink
people
diet
aren't happy
soda,
with
but
that,
that makes a lot of sense, so I appreciate it. Okay, let's go to cookbooks. Do you have a favorite cookbook or plan that you follow or that you like?
Well, I don't just follow one thing. I do actually have a Pinterest page as well that's also Dr. K's Wellness, so I save a lot of different recipes and things there because I'll just come across different things that are really tasty. But if I had to pick a cookbook, it would be Deceptively Delicious. And that's exactly what it is. It is a cookbook by Jessica Seinfeld. And deceptively, because we make recipes and we add in vegetables and other things that maybe our family doesn't like.
Okay, I remember this now from a long time ago. She was like hiding spinach in the brownies. Is that her? That's the one? Okay.
Yes.
I like it. Good.
Yes.
Two very popular diets out there. Well, we'll start with one. Keto is very popular. What are your overall thoughts on keto or even just low carb diets?
So carbohydrates are something that not only the food groups that provide us various nutrients for our bodies, but low carb is typically not something that someone can sustain for a long period of time. Now, one of my issues with keto, because ketogenic diets can be beneficial because of the high fats. However, most people do dirty keto.
So it's like high saturated fat
Right.
versus unsaturated healthy fats.
So healthy keto actually has a lot of benefits. And if someone has a seizure disorder, some sort of neurological disorder such as multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's, there can be benefits to getting more healthy fats in the diet because our nerves are surrounded by this myelin sheath, which is made of fats, or phospholipids, but for the technical name. But most of the time, that dirty keto, you'll see eat bacon and cheese and whatever you want, as long as it doesn't have carbs, it's good for you. And that's just not true. So if you're going to do keto, or a low carb diet, it doesn't have to be keto. What we want to try and do is avoid the sugars. So avoid anything that has the refined sugars in it. Get our healthy fats. And because then you have moderate protein, sometimes people get too much protein. Our body can actually break protein down and make carbohydrates out of it, which isn't good. Your triglycerides will skyrocket if you do that.
Interesting.
But sometimes people will get keto flu when they cut out the carbohydrates, and so keto flu makes you feel like you have influenza because your body's kind of detoxing. So what's actually better for us is something called carb cycling. And so carb cycling is where we get some carbohydrates and then on some days, and then we decrease the amount of carbohydrates on other days. And so think of it as like this little roller coaster where you are cycling back and forth the amount of carbohydrates that you get. Now, again, carbohydrates, we really want to get the whole food carbs. So we're thinking about maybe some of our starchy vegetables. You can get sweet potatoes. If you're going to eat regular white potatoes, eat them cold. You can cook them and then eat them cold because then that actually our bodies will digest it a little bit differently. So just a little tidbit of information on that. It makes it a resistant starch, something that
you don't have to explain it to me. I believe you. I'll eat it cold. That's fine. That's easy. But I think it's good to talk about carbs because I think when we say carb and hear carb, we're thinking, French fries and breads, bad carbs, but there are a lot of clean, good carbs that we should keep. Like, so you mentioned potatoes. Give me some more examples.
Fruits, berries. If you are going to get maybe a whole grain, like a really whole grain, sprouted grain sort of cracker or a sprouted grain bread, sprouted grain breads don't have the preservatives in them, so they'll be in the refrigerator section in your bread aisle.
Yeah, they're frozen. You have to put them in the toaster, and then they're really crunchy when you eat them.
They are a little crunchy.
I like them, but it's an acquired taste. So as for healthy fats, you mentioned that. Give us a couple good healthy fats, like avocado, olive oil, what else?
Right, extra virgin olive oil and your MCT oils, which would be your fractionated coconut oil. So the coconut oil that is not hard at room temperature, it's the liquid. And then nuts and seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, any of those are also great for our guts as well.
So if we are trying to cut maybe the bad carbs, is this the best way to keep our energy up? These healthy fats or these healthy carbs? Because a lot of people have said, I cut carbs, but then I'm tired all day long. So we're not saying, go get the fries, it'll keep your energy up. Some of those foods, are there good ones that are maybe more beneficial for energy?
So
for your clean carbs?
typically people are going to be sugar burners or carb burners. And so when we start to cut out carbohydrates, our bodies have to shift to getting used to burning more fat for energy.
Okay.
So it's better if we don't just cut cold turkey. Then we can, if we just decrease the carbohydrate intake for a period of time, though you typically don't get the keto flu, and you can adjust a little bit better. And then your body learns that I'm not going to have carbohydrates to burn every time that I need some energy. It will learn to burn the fat better.
Okay, makes sense. Now let's talk about being hungry versus being thirsty. Can your body be confused? Like, hey, I feel hungry, but I'm actually just thirsty. Is that a real thing?
So yes, sometimes, here's a good rule of thumb for everybody out there listening, that if you know that you have eaten lunch, let's say, and all of a sudden it's an hour later and you're just like, I am so hungry right now. If you've eaten a good lunch, you're probably just thirsty. So my recommendation is drink 8 ounces of water, give yourself a good 20 minutes, and if you're still actually hungry, then eat an apple or something like that, because that will have good fiber. It also has water in it and is very hydrating. And if you don't want the apple, then you're probably not hungry. So that's also helpful.
And you can't say, well, it's because I don't like apples. If you don't want something healthy, you're probably not hungry.
Right.
All right, let's talk about when to eat and what those meals look like. Are there times of the day that are optimal for strength or for metabolism or weight loss? And then in those times, is it more beneficial? We've heard have like 5 small meals throughout the day. Is it better to just have a big breakfast and a small dinner? Like, what are your thoughts on timing versus sizes and all together?
Right. So as a sports nutritionist, I would say, I mean, there's so many different regimens out there. For those that are athletes and competitive athletes, then they need to be eating more often. Whereas probably 80% of us land in the average person category, right? I mean, that's probably fair to say. I exercise 6 or 7 days a week, but that's still...
if that's average person, I'm not in that one.
Well, but just thinking about like the average person, how long they're exercising,
Sure.
the intensity of the exercise, most of us need to eat just 3 times a day. And it's interesting because nutrition changes so rapidly that it will go from, nope, here's the recommendation, and then you see new research, and so just get on the roller coaster because nutrition changes quite often. But the most current research is showing that for the average individual, if you're exercising roughly 30 to 60 minutes a day, and your intensity might be light to moderate, okay? Which would be more the average. Somebody's walking the dog, they're
sure.
maybe cycling or something. Eating 3 meals a day would be more beneficial than having 5 meals spread out. Also, we talked a little bit this weekend about intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Intermittent fasting is when we have a longer time where we don't eat. So maybe after dinner at night that we're not eating a snack or anything after, let's say, 6 o'clock, and then we're not eating until 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, it's not as hard as you might think to do that, but if we were doing that, then what we would do is we would eat around 9 or 10 in the morning, and then we would eat again around 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and then we would eat again at 5 or 6 p.m. And you want to get enough calories and your correct nutrients during that time, but so you're not skimping and cutting out calories, but you're allowing your body the opportunity to use fat for fuel. Your body stores of fat. Most people have many pounds of fat. Even people that are very slender will have several pounds of fat on their body, and our bodies can utilize that for energy. So it can also be beneficial for weight loss and good for our brains as well.
Okay, good. I want to transition a little bit, still talking about diet, but shifting gears. We had a number of people ask, like, is there a healthy way to put weight on? If we know we're underweight, or if we're trying to gain in a healthy way to then maybe really push our workout regimen, most of us don't ask this question, but some of you are, like, how do we put weight on well?
Right, so we definitely want to put on good weight. We want to put on muscle weight. And there's a few different things that we need to consider. So number one, and this will tie into gut health, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, but our guts are going to help us be at a healthy weight. So it's interesting. What someone might do to help themselves lose weight, someone else might be able to use to help gain weight, which it seems really counterintuitive.
Yeah, give me an example of what that looks like.
Well, so someone might utilize smoothies, let's say. We love smoothies in our house.
Okay.
They're so simple and easy. You can get whole foods, you can add in whole foods to them, get a nice adequate amount of protein. And for someone that might help to curb some cravings, they get a little more fiber in that, and it can help them to modulate or lose some weight. Someone who is trying to gain weight could use smoothies to where they are adding extra calories in, maybe some extra healthy fats, because then they will be able to use that to gain some weight. So the smoothies might not look exactly the same. However, if our gut health is on par, then our body will get the signaling it needs to burn the fuel that it needs, and so really the key is going to be gut health.
So before we get to gut health, because I think that's an amazing topic that we need to maybe spend a little bit of time on, let's talk about joints real quick. So we're eating healthy, we're maybe preparing ourselves to start some exercise, but we might have some joint pain. So are there nutritional ways that we can help address the joint pain to be more beneficial in our exercise?
Right, so we definitely need to be thinking about the more of an anti-inflammatory diet. Now, if you're eating whole fruits and vegetables, especially the deep colors. So think about when you look at your plate, my plate and what the government...
Eat the rainbow,
Yes,
they
what
say?
the government uses, to show you what my plate should look like. We want it to be really colorful. If it's really bland colors, then we're not getting as many nutrients. Do you know that they have purple broccoli and purple cauliflower and purple sweet potatoes? And that means that the soil has a lot of nutrients in it. So anti-inflammatory diets are exactly what we've already talked about. Whole fruits and vegetables, especially the really deep dark colors, the extra virgin olive oil, and but the other part of that is removing some of those things that are causing the inflammation. So it's the fast food, I know, it's the junk food and the processed food and the high sugars. Sugar is actually going to be the biggest component of inflammation for us. So start to cut that out. It doesn't mean you're cutting out carbs, you're cutting out the added sugar.
And I can attest to that. I've seen that work in my own life. Like inflammation, joint pain, knees. You're like, oh no, it actually worked. So now I have to keep it up. It does work. Okay, so let's talk about sleep. Is there a way in nutrition to really help benefit our evening, our sleep? Like, I think all of us are under-rested. I don't know many people that wake up in the morning like, that was the best night's sleep ever. I have all the energy I need for the day. So how do we get a really good restorative night's sleep?
So a few of the different thoughts, and one is don't eat 2 hours before you're going to go to bed. If our bodies are trying to digest food, sometimes that can just stimulate some different things in the body that can keep us awake. Obviously, we know other non-nutrition sort of things, not being on our phones and getting the blue light stimulus and everything. But, and sometimes people ask about melatonin, but we have to be careful with melatonin. That's something that really needs to be cycled, because if you take melatonin consistently, your body will stop producing melatonin.
So I only recently learned that melatonin's a hormone that your body produces. And when I heard that, I was like, wait, you guys stop giving your kids melatonin blindly, because they have those cute gummies that help put your kids to sleep. So I was like, oh, it's a hormone that our body needs to produce. So you're saying it can throw off that cycle if we're giving it.
Right. So melatonin can be used in short bursts. So for maybe a couple of nights in a row, and then don't use it for a few nights. Sometimes people would say take it for a week or two, and then don't take it for a week or two. But I think that the biggest point is you don't want to be using it all the time, because then your body will stop producing melatonin. And then let's say you travel somewhere and you forget your melatonin, and you're in a foreign country and you can't get melatonin, and now you're laying there awake, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to mess up our body in doing that. Now, what's neat is that there are some different things that can help us produce our own melatonin, and Tart cherry juice is actually one of those things that can help us produce our own melatonin.
That is good to know. And we could add it to our smoothie.
You could, but maybe you don't want to drink that in the morning. Like, don't add it to your smoothie in the morning. You could have it in a smoothie in the evening,
at night.
Right. And Tart cherry juice is actually, there's some great studies on it for inflammation and for joint health. Now, so with the Tart cherry juice, I just have to say, you want to get it in the purest form. It'll be hopefully in a glass bottle. It might cost $9 or $10 for that glass bottle, but you don't want to get it with your general juices and things because it will be mostly water. This will be concentrated, and you'll take about 1 ounce before, like an hour before bed.
Okay.
It does have a little sugar in it, so natural sugar from the cherries. So if you're diabetic, you would just want to pay attention to that from an insulin standpoint.
Okay, Tart cherry juice for sleep. Doable. We keep referring to gut health, so let's go there. I know over the weekend in service, if you missed it, you can catch that online at both the YouTube page and the Fox River Facebook page. We did get to touch on it briefly, and that's where I think we got a lot of questions, because you made the comment, our gut is really like a second brain. So expand on that for us.
Right. So, I mean, we have our primary brain, right? And then our second brain in our gut, because the majority of our brain hormones and the healthy brain hormones, I guess you would say, the feel-good neurotransmitters are actually produced in the gut. So 90% of serotonin is produced in 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. Serotonin makes us feel good. We release serotonin when we eat carbohydrates. That's why if someone is feeling bummed about something, they eat ice cream or something, they're like, oh, I feel much better.
And you get a temporary reprieve.
Right, exactly. Okay. So dopamine and serotonin are two neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are those chemicals that are going to get our brain firing. And they're produced in the gut. That's why it's the second brain. If our gut isn't doing what it's supposed to do, one being the absorbing the nutrients, but two, being able to regulate some of those feel-good neurotransmitters, then guess what? We are not going to feel good. We're going to have more depression, anxiety, tension, stress.
That's what I was going to say. I've heard this idea of a gut-brain axis where we have all of this mental unwellness that we maybe treat our head like chemically or with antidepressants, when maybe it's good to also then focus on where the actual brain is getting its nutrients from. However, it's not just mental health and wellness, it's our immune system too. What does that look like?
Right, so we have to think about, I really like to use targeted solutions that target the gut and the microbiome. Some people may have heard of the microbiome. That's a big buzzword. And basically looking at the way that the gut is functioning. And we have microflora in there. So think of it as your army that's in your gut that's helping you to absorb nutrients and fight off various pathogens. So that's where immunity comes into play. When we have targeted solutions for this, then we're targeting within our gut to then be our defense mechanism. Over 70% of our immune system is in our guts. And so definitely, again, more targeted solutions. Now, part of that with immunity, that I know there was a question about this, that what should we do to boost our immune systems and to keep ourselves just boosted? Let me tell you, you do not want to keep your immune system boosted all the time. And I know that seems strange, but think about it. When you are introduced with injury or illness, your body goes into the mode of saying, I need to fight off this pathogen. I need to fix whatever. I need to stop the bleeding for the injury or something. And that's good in the short term. But if we try to boost our immune systems all the time, then we're staying in a state of what the body looks at as illness. And so then what happens is that's one of the ways that autoimmune disorders can be created, because our body sits there and says, wait, I'm in this constant mode of, I think something's attacking me, and then it starts to attack itself. That's what autoimmune is. So let me give you a better term for this. It's priming the immune system. We want to prime the immune system. So that goes back to our gut health. Targeted probiotics, prebiotics, phytobiotics that help the gut to function at its best. And then the immune system is primed. So then when we are introduced with something like, COVID or Omicron or whatever, whatever, influenza, then our immune system is primed, and the immune system says, It's like having your snowblower ready for a big snowstorm. That it's got the gas and the oil and everything in it. When that snowstorm comes, guess what? You're ready for it. But you're not out there with your snowblower all the time when there's no snow. Does that make sense?
So it does make sense, but to follow up with that, does that mean that you can put too much effort into boosting your immune system. So is there too much elderberry to take in, too much vitamin D, and too much like preparing that might actually be, well, not beneficial, that might be harmful?
Yeah.
Is there a balance here?
Yes. So let's say that after a couple of days after this interview, and you call me and you say, Jamie, I'm so sorry, I just tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
Well, I may or may not, be infected or anything, but what I can do is go, I know that I was exposed. And I can say, okay, I'm going to boost my immune system in that moment, just for that particular, for a couple of days, because I may have been exposed, and therefore my body, I give it the extra boost. So that's when we take more vitamin D. That's when we take elderberry, or we can take oregano oil, or obviously, as long as you're not allergic to any of these things, you can take these things, right? But there's also vitamin C, and zinc is actually one that has been shown to really help with COVID in particular. And so there's so many other immune boosting things that we can take. Otherwise, everyone who lives anywhere in a northern state, all throughout the winter time, should be taking at least 1,000 international units of vitamin D3 every single day. And that includes our kids, little liquid drops very easily. But that's something where typically at least 1,000 international units would be really important. And then we should be getting other nutrients in our diet, and those would, I don't think that there's an exact level, let's say, for elderberry. Elderberry isn't something that we typically get on a regular basis, right? But vitamin D is something we should be getting on a regular basis.
Okay, so we are going to prime our immune system so that it's ready to go. We're not going to boost it.
And just so you know, I regularly post things about gut health because it's so important. So if you follow my pages, you would have information about that on those.
Perfect. Okay, couple questions on exercise as we wrap up. We only have a couple minutes left. What is best for us long term? So cardio, which I really don't like doing. So is cardio better for us long term, or weight training?
Well, it's going to be both, really.
Of course it's going to be both.
You knew it was going to be both.
I knew it.
But strength training is so important for us. And women in particular tend to be the ones that don't want to do the strength training, but it's so important for us. We need to be strong. So when we trip on the sidewalk or something, we can catch ourselves, and so that we're able to just perform activities of daily living, right? But cardio is also important because we need to work our heart and lungs. Remember, our heart is a muscle. We need to work that to keep it strong. Plus, cardiovascular exercise helps us with our blood fats. It increases our healthy blood fats and helps us to burn off triglycerides and other things that are on the bad fat side of things. Now, with strength training or cardiovascular exercise, we need to start somewhere, and we need to start low. Maybe just using body weight would be a great place to start. But I personally love high intensity interval training because you can work as intensely as you're able to, but it's short bursts of activity that have a longer impact. And there's been a lot of great studies on high intensity interval training that have shown
We need a better
benefits.
name for it, though, because just hearing the name makes me want to run away. And I'm like, no high intensity anything. Like, let's just go for a walk. But I do like Just Dance. Have you ever played Just Dance?
Yes.
So we did get somebody asked, like, is Just Dance a great workout? I know I sweat, but I get into it.
Right. It depends on if you want to win or not. Because Just Dance, if you want to win, I'm reigning champion on some songs in our household.
Yes.
And but it can be very good. It wouldn't be the only thing that I would recommend, but yet it's definitely something that can get your heart rate up, especially if you're really vigorous with it.
Well, it's a great way to incorporate family. If you can't get out to the gym, if it's too cold outside and you need something cardio, I think it's a lot of fun. I really like it. And then you take those videos and you post them on social media because it's always entertaining.
Right.
You don't have to ask for permission to tape your spouse in Just Dance and put it on. Is there anything that you would like to follow up with? Any last things that you'd like to offer? Any tips? How about, like, be nice to yourself about this? Because this is overwhelming. Like, I like to talk about health as much as the next guy, but when I hear all of the ways I can improve, I'm kind of like, nah, forget it, I'm good.
Right. I would say to everyone that you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I would agree, be nice to yourself. We are not going to change overnight. It's kind of like weight loss. People want to lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks, but we didn't gain 30 pounds in 2 weeks. And our lifestyle, it's about making those small changes. And eventually, sometimes people don't like the taste of healthy foods. But once we start to change and get rid of artificial sweeteners and eat the whole foods, then our palates change to where then those foods actually taste better. So give yourself some grace, take the time, and I'll tell you, the gut health is the first place to start. It will have the biggest impact on your life and on your health.
I want to thank you for your time, for your information, for your expertise. I want you to tell us your social media places we can find you real quick.
Yes, at Dr. K's _wellness on Instagram, and then on Facebook, it's Dr. K's Wellness Group, which is a public group that you can find if you just search in groups.
And you mentioned Pinterest. Is that Dr.
Yes,
K also?
that is Dr. K's Wellness as well. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody
Thank you,
for
everybody.
joining us. I hope this was beneficial and interesting and encouraging and motivating, not defeating. Thanks for being with us, guys.